Welcome to Expedient Means with Lin Wei and Tom on Radio. Lin currently resides in China and is the founder and head teacher of Guizhen Philo-Cultural Society. His extensive experience in Buddhist and Taoist meditation, Qigong, martial arts, and traditional Chinese medicine. To learn more about Lin, please visit his website at www.guizhenhui.net. Tonight we'll be talking a little bit about the lotus posture, full lotus, half lotus, and I guess, for lack of a better term, no lotus. So, welcome back,
Lazy
Lynn.
Lotus.
Lazy Lotus.
Hello.
Yes, we're gonna. You know what? I was reading this intro and I got thinking here. I'm gonna have to change this whole thing up when you move from China back to the U.S.
Well. Before you even make a comment on that, actually, we decided to stay in China.
There you go. Problem solved. I don't have to change anything.
Well, just to put it up there and out there, I am looking and have been hired for cultural counselor, like kind of like not an ambassador because there's no country, supporting me, but it's basically an educational institution in the South has hired me to be a counselor on cultural affairs in their gigantic institution for the primary, middle school, high school, as well as international relations. So I have to be providing cultural activities, festivals, philosophical classes, and all that fun stuff. So yeah, meditation can be something I can bring to the table there as well.
So you're
What
gonna be
changed
like,
the mind?
you're gonna be like a cultural ninja.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's just basically doing what I do, teaching it in English, but not teaching English. I'm not teaching English classes. I'm just teaching these things about culture and philosophy to foreign students, basically from England, and then doing philosophy, cultural classes, and martial arts to the Chinese nationals here as well. So it's really, it's a pretty interesting position.
Oh, it sounds cool.
And the air has become better. The season of smog has ended in the south for now, and it seems to be a better place to go instead of going back and starting over. Basically, got a family and must provide.
You got to do what you got to do.
Oh yeah.
All right.
So
Well,
you don't have to change anything.
yeah. The universe tends to put us where we have to be, I guess.
Pretty much, and which brings us right into our discussion.
Right. Not really, but I guess so. All right. So we're going to talk a little bit about sitting in Lotus. So, what's the big deal? Why?
Yeah.
Why Lotus? Just because it's painful and annoys you? And is that like an expedient? Is that the big deal? Or
No, it's because the Buddhists. It's because the Buddhists did it, and that's the way it has to be done, and that's the end of our show. Kidding.
Because Buddha said so.
We should make change to say, "What would Buddha do?" And he would just say, "Lotus, shut up." Basically.
No. We should just say, "What would Buddha do?" And he'd say, "Stop the false thinking."
Yes. That's right. And then when you're in there feeling the pain, you son of a bitch, God damn it, my leg's killing me. But on a more positive note, the whole deal with Lotus, it kind of runs like this. If we want to talk on aspects of health first, let's do that. If you're sitting in regular cross-leg position, it's fine and dandy and comfortable, and you sit in meditation, you really, don't have anything obstructing you, any pains, any uncomfortableness whatsoever, and you can hit into a deep, nice, comfortable state. Okay, fine, cool. If that's all you can do and you can't do anything more, then so be it. But because there is more to it, then we go into half lotus. We say, okay, I can do half lotus, or I can't. My knee is sticking all the way up to the ceiling. I can't get it to be flat down on the ground. Well, stretching allows that to loosen up, and you get into half lotus, and eventually you get into full lotus, and we'll talk about the mechanisms in that. But regular cross-leg position in meditation, it doesn't temper the mind. It doesn't do much to help you temper your application of concentration. So it's kind of just taking the easy way out, which will take a longer way. Perhaps I say this perhaps because some people may not need it. They have lifetimes of cultivation before, and they send cross leg whatever, and then they're fine. But since not the case, that's not the case with most of the 6 billion out there. The cross leg position doesn't temper the mind. It doesn't make you have to really do much, and I call it the lazy lotus. It's not even a lotus, but I just call it the lazy lotus because, you just sit in comfortableness. You're sitting in ease, but you're not sitting in the ease gained from tempering your mind.
What about people that would say you should be comfortable, because if you're not comfortable, then your mind's going to be focusing on the pain, and it's going to be more difficult to concentrate, so to speak.
Right. Well, I would say, the original state is that there is nothing difficult at all. And the original state would say, there's nothing that should be disrupting the mind. So whether you're in lazy lotus or full lotus, feeling the pain or no pain, why are you still discriminating on there being pain? Because there is still a discriminating mind based on the position bringing pain. There is no actual attainment of anything at that point. It's just clothes that get dirty, you got to take them off and put on a new pair. You're not attaining anything. You're not gaining anything. There's no kung fu. There's no skill in what one's doing. So if you're saying, they go, you should be nice and comfortable, feel like you're floating on a cloud, and you're sitting on a pillow of clouds, and everything is all happy and beautiful. Sure. And then someone comes in, opens the door, slams it behind you, and you start getting an attitude. What the hell are you doing? It's supposed to be nice and happy and comfortable here. No, you're not getting anywhere. You have to temper the mind. You need that little bit of suffering to help end your false thinking or the habit of actually discriminating.
What about on a physiological level? There's a couple ways we can look at it, but even just physically, I know there's a couple large arteries that run up and down that part of your leg. And then also I've heard it said that there's different energetic qualities from sitting in lotus posture.
Well, okay, let's go right directly to the full lotus. You have the liver, spleen, and kidney channels running on the inside of the legs, wrapping around the genitals and flowing through the hips and up to the body, everywhere it goes. And then you have on the outside of the legs the gallbladder channel, stomach channel, and urinary bladder channel. So when you're just sitting in full lotus, you're stretching open the hips. You're stretching the muscles around the hips. You're stretching you're not actually stretching the bone, but you're just creating, a tension that stretches the muscles and tendons. But what that does, that's just what it does physiologically. What it does energetically is that because that is stretching, it helps free up the blood flow and, what we say in Chinese medicine and in cultivation, their energy flow. So when the blood can flow smoothly, energy can flow smoothly. So when that happens, it's easier for energy to flow throughout the body in that position. Now we can do versus cross-leg position, where you're just sitting normally with your legs crossed. There's nothing happening. It's just normal, regular flow of energy and blood. We want to emphasize that. We want to crystallize that. That's the point of doing our sitting lotus position, is to maximize the potential our body has with that specific function of flowing of blood and energy.
I've heard it said before that a lot of the Eastern yogas and the positions and postures weren't really designed with a Western practitioner or European practitioner in mind, because our body types are different. What would you say to that?
If the Eastern people really didn't have bones like the Western people, then sure. They have bones. We have bones. They have muscles. We have muscles. I think we're human. I think that's what the species is called. I just think it's more like people are afraid to really go do it because it's just outside of their sphere of comfort. It's made by humans. Therefore, it is It's cultivatable. It's to be cultivated by humans. So if it's made by people, it can be used by people. Unlike GMOs, made by people to kill people. Okay, I don't mean in that sense. I just mean it in the sense for cultivation. If it's made by people, it can be utilized by people. So, yeah, sure. Some legs in the Eastern peoples are shorter or longer, and the abdomen is longer or shorter. Who cares? I mean, so because I'm not born in India or born in the East Asian countries, I cannot sit in full lotus. Well, I can physically. So the real case is, am I lazy, or am I too limited in my sphere of what I consider to be acceptable in my world? That's what we have to ask. Just because the methods are made by a certain type of people on our planet doesn't mean that the other quote-unquote types of people can't practice them. That's silly. I get that question here all the time with martial arts, and the people here see me teaching or discussing or practicing in the park, like, oh, you're a foreigner and you're practicing martial arts. That's so funny. It's so weird. I say, really? I think it's so strange that you have no concept. And this is what I tell them. You have no concept that humans made martial arts. So humans can practice martial arts. Humans made culture. So humans can understand and cultivate culture. It doesn't make sense how you can say that. Nobody else except the Chinese can do this. And they just look at me. And I go, this can't be way over your head, man. And they just smile. I said, no, come on. And I talk very straight to people like this because they're talking very straight to me the way they are. So I say, okay. So no. A human made it, a human can cultivate it. If a god made it, if a Buddha made it, they were human once before. So it's utilized in a manner in which we can cultivate it as a human.
How come some people can get into it so easy, and then some other of us, myself included, have such a hell of a time trying to get in? I mean, my legs, around that area are quite large. Not
well,
fat, but just
well, it's
my
because
build.
you're not. It's because you're not Asian.
So, in other words, I'll have to wait until my next lifetime to be born in Asia to full Lotus. I actually probably, I have to believe that, to be honest with you. I mean, I've tried everything. I'll sit there with weights on my legs to stretch my tendons out and everything, and I just still can't do it. I can do half Lotus.
Some physical bodies are hard to get into it simply because, after so many years of being in a specific way, perhaps maybe not stretching there, or just, going through your daily things, not even thinking of having to do that kind of lotus position ever. It's hard to get into it. You can stretch, you can do whatever you can, and it just doesn't work. Sometimes the legs are just thick, thick calves or thick thighs. How are you going to deal with that? Thick skulls too. It's hard. Some people will say, well, do yoga or do this stretching technique or do that stretching technique. It can be very frustrating. So if you can't get into it at all, it's not all lost. Don't worry. But at least you gotta admit and try and really be sincere in trying to do it and say, look, I really can't get into full lotus. Can't do it. I have, really thick calves. So when I wanted to get into full lotus, it was very, very hard. I had to literally pull my leg over, over my other foot, and put a cloth between my legs so it doesn't slip off the leg. So it was very difficult when I first went into full lotus. But other than that, over time, 3 months of dealing with the torturous pain, I finally got into it. Some people can get physical damage from it if they don't temper themselves properly.
You just read my mind.
Wow.
That was my next question.
Yeah, they can get knee damages, ankle damage, hip damage, muscle tears, tendon tears, and be aware that if you just jump into full lotus right away without ever having done anything before, it can hurt you. It's not that the lotus is bad; it's not bad at all. It's just that it's a posture you have to cultivate to get into. You can't just throw your legs up there and say, I am doing lotus. Okay, you can't do that. It's not going to bring you anything. Some can, and that's their flexibility is good. Some people, I mean, in cultivation, we also call it mannerism of karma. Some people have never done full lotus whatsoever. And when they've tried to, they couldn't get it. And then after some many months or so of bowing practice or recitation, or even we call it repentance practices for a while, all of a sudden they can just try full lotus and get into it without pain. No numbness, no pain, no anything. And they're fine. I mean, there's many different levels of how it can be done. I'm not saying that method's going to work for everyone. No, I'm just saying that you got to be careful. If one has to go into lotus, do some mild stretching for those specific muscle groups. You got your inner thighs, you got the top of the thighs, but basically the quads you want to do, the groin, okay, and the hamstrings. You want to stretch them comfortably, do some nice stretching, and then try to ease into it over time. But you got to take. Some people need to take some time with it. Some can just go right to it.
I think even among the sexes, there's a bit of a difference. I think women tend to be able to get into it easier because men actually have a different muscle group that around the groin area called the linguinal muscles. That makes it a little bit harder for men to get into the position.
Well, they can just stretch. The men can stretch. I met women who couldn't do the full lotus for their life. They couldn't get into it at all. They had to stretch and eventually earn their way into full lotus. Excuse me.
I'm just sort of speaking in generalities, I guess. But
yeah, that's okay too, because generally, people who would hear this would be like, either they've done meditation or they've done sitting lotus before, or they've done lotus position, or they haven't. So we can go general and we can go even deeper. Generally, I met muscle-bound athletes who couldn't get into full lotus, and on the other hand, I met those who could, with their legs being like 20-inch thick calves and stuff. Now I have about 17.5-inch calves, and I have a belly too, but I got 17.5-inch calves, and I'm not overweight. I've inherited these from my father, gigantic legs.
Yeah.
So it was really difficult for me to get into those things, into the lotus. But when I did, it was a whole different practice altogether. The benefits are amazing. If you can't get into it, and you can only do half, that's okay too. I mean, it's not the end of the world. It's just you won't get the taste of what full lotus can bring you, but you can taste what half lotus can do, which is just half of what full lotus can do.
Yeah, I know myself, like even when I first began sitting, I couldn't even do half lotus. Like I had a hell of a time doing that. And then what I did is I just sit there for, as much as I could take. It might only been a couple minutes at first, and then over time, it might have been 4 minutes, and after 6 months, it was maybe 15 minutes, and then after a year, it was maybe, a half an hour, 45 minutes, however long, right? So you can gradually work your way into most of these things, but I mean, I still have a hard time with full lotus personally.
Yeah, you do eventually get into it, and yes, you give yourself an extra minute, an extra 4 minutes. You throw in a few more minutes here and there, and when you find you've reached the comfort zone, because you want to get out of your comfort zone, that's the point. Your cultivation practice itself is an aesthetic practice. It takes you out of your comfort zone. It brings in a little taste of suffering, and people would say that we enjoy our suffering as a cultivator. Yeah, I enjoy the pain I get in my legs. Why? Because I know that next time I go and do this, I won't have that pain again.
Sometimes, I don't know if it's happened to you. I'm sure it has, or probably happens to most people. But you'll push yourself and say, I'm only going to do a couple more minutes, and then sometimes you just hit a state where you lose that pain altogether, and you just kind of transcend it. And maybe you sit there an extra 10 or 15 minutes, right, without even realizing it.
Yes. You can try to push yourself, and that's what I mean. Excuse me. You add an extra minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and then all of a sudden, you've broken through the threshold of what you can handle, and now you're in this free-flowing area of state. And you forget it all about what you were concerned with before, and you lose track of time and space. That's very good.
I guess you could say that the pain and everything was an expedient, right?
Remember, you temper yourself, and when you sit in the lotus or half lotus, you're basically inducing suffering. You're giving yourself negative things. You're giving yourself a pain, an uncomfortable situation, experience, and that's said to lessen negative karma because you're taking it on yourself. Now, I don't want anyone to go out there and say, well, if I punch myself in the face, would that end some type of negative karma? You know, don't do that. Knowing that's called greed, okay? Ooh, I know if I give myself some pain, I'll lose some of the negative karma. Let me go ram my head against the wall, through a glass window. That should definitely do it. No, some aesthetics in this type of practice used to put pins through their arms to lessen their, just to overcome their attachment to the body and false views about pain. What they realized later on was that it did lessen their karma. But what happened was, knowing that it lessens your karma, going to do it for that reason is greedy. And that actually just puts more heads on top of heads. It puts more affliction on your already blossoming affliction. Okay?
Well,
So,
plus on top of that, I mean, your body is sort of a good vehicle for cultivation, and it's sort of like if you have a car, do you want to go crash that car into a bunch of walls and, smash it up, or should you maybe just take care of your car?
right, exactly. So you do your Lotus. It's better to get that type of suffering because what comes out of that bitterness is a sweet fruit. Okay, what comes out of the bitterness of plucking, stabbing yourself with needles or ramming your head against the wall is scars and big bumps on your face. You don't want to do that. So anyway,
I'm surprised we're 20 minutes in and you haven't told the story. You know what story I'm talking about?
I was going to about 10 minutes ago, and I decided, no, let's just talk about what we're going to talk about.
Come on, tell the story.
I always trail off. When I was 17, it was a very good year. All throughout my younger years in cultivation, I was doing half Lotus because I never thought that full Lotus was something I should do. I didn't even know what the word meant, or didn't even knew what that posture looked like. I just saw, people sitting with their legs crossed, and I didn't really look at which leg was where and whatever the case was. So I didn't care. So I was doing half Lotus from 8 years old all the way up to 25. And occasionally I would say, hey, let me try to do full Lotus, but I couldn't get my leg up, and I was afraid I'd tear my knee off. I was afraid I'd tear my lower part of my leg off. Literally, I thought that was going to happen, so I didn't do it. But when I met my Buddhist teacher, I went and was sitting in half Lotus, and I just hear him say full Lotus. And I said, oh, man, okay. Because, everything he said I believed, because it really changed my life for the better. So I said, okay, I'll go for it. I try. And the pain, excruciating pain I felt was just excruciating. 3 months, I walked like I had sores on my butt from riding a horse. I just walking with such a wide gap in my legs. People thought I was retardedly crazy, thought I was nuts. Limping and dragging my leg and walking in pain and walking with a cane. I really was like, 30 years old. No, how old was I? 25 years old. You're like, oh my God, how old are you? 40, 50? I'm like, no, 25, man. And so I would, every day in the pain, every day I would sit, legs crossed in Lotus, putting cloth between my right foot and my left leg so it doesn't slip off. And sometimes I had to hold my foot. Sometimes I had to hold my arms over my legs and, prop up my feet so they don't slide and pop off. And the pain was excruciating. But I had to do it because my teacher said, that's what you have to do. Why did he say that? Because he knows that if you do full Lotus, you can go further in your practice. And so that's what I wanted. I wanted to go further, and that's what I got. After 3 months, really literally 3 months in pain, some days good, some days really bad. The last day, I believe it was the last of the day after the last, I went right into full Lotus, and I didn't feel the pain. I was actually able to sit 15 minutes with no pain. So I tried to push myself. And I pushed myself because I remember my teacher saying, in one of his many, many moons ago lectures was, you tell your legs, just one more minute. you can try one more minute. Maybe we'll get enlightened in the next minute, and then there'll be nothing, no more pain whatsoever. Just one more minute. Let's add an extra minute, just 2 more minutes. It's okay. We'll be okay. And he said, you talk to the legs, make them feel good and happy. He was making
And
a
your
joke,
leg
but
starts swearing at you. You're crazy, man. What are you doing to me
you're
here?
crazy son of a bitch. What are you doing? F you and your enlightenment. you know. But I said, okay, let me try that. So I did that, and I pushed myself 20 minutes, and all of a sudden I was going 40 minutes, and then my legs would get all numb and couldn't move them, and I could punch them. I didn't feel anything. And over time, I was sitting for 3 hours or 4 hours, and all fun and dandy. And I said, great. It's like slip right in, no problem. There was a story in Buddhist texts. I'm sure you heard about this, and I think we spoke about this before a few times. Excuse me, about the monk who would do cemetery rituals, funeral rituals for obviously the dead and the families, because can make good money. They called him the ghost, or the ghost. Oh, I forget now. Damn it, my memory sucks. But anyway, people would call him based on what he did. So he was like friendly with ghosts. He would always do these ceremonies for the ghosts and for the dead, and he would make a little bit of cash from it. Excuse me. And so one day he decided to sit on a rock by a bridge or something like that, and to sit and do some meditation. So he actually went into full lotus. And since he was friendly with ghosts, he was able to see some ghosts. And these two ghosts walked over and says, oh, look, a golden pagoda. Let's go bow to it. There's Buddhist relics. Usually the Buddhist body is in the golden pagoda. So they started bowing and bowing and bowing. And the monk, he opened his eyes and he seen that there's these two ghosts bowing to him. He's like, oh, this is great. And then his leg started to hurt. So as they're bowing, he, slipped into half lotus. And so the ghosts were bowing and bowing, and they start talking to each other. Wait, the pagoda changed to a silver pagoda. Oh, well, that's okay too, because there's Buddhist relics in the silver pagoda too. Okay, good. Let's just keep bowing. And the monk overheard this. He's like, oh, that's pretty cool. So he's trying to sit longer, but his legs are starting to ache even more. And he slips into cross-leg, what I call the lazy lotus, the cross-leg position. And the monks the ghosts are bowing and bowing, and all of a sudden one of them sneaks a peek and goes, the silver pagoda changed into a pile of mud. Well, let's go kick it. So they start going over to the monk, and they don't see the monk. They see a big pile of mud. And the monk hears this, and he slips back into full lotus, and they go, oh, it changed into a golden pagoda. Oh my God, it must be a Buddha's in there. The Buddha's relic in there must be a transforming. Wow, this is really a amazing thing. Let's just keep bowing. We can get great merits from bowing to the Buddhas. Let's just keep bowing. So the monk had to deal with, sitting in full lotus and all the pain, because he was really lazy. He wasn't a monk that did his cultivation. He just went around doing all this stuff here and there for ghosts and trying to make a little cash here and there. And he decided, I have nothing to do today. Let me just sit in full lotus and do a little practice. And then he overheard this ghost saying, hey, a golden pagoda is a full lotus, silver pagoda is a half lotus, and a pile of mud is the lazy lotus, the cross-leg position, Oh, I get it. And he awoken. He just awoken to that kind of principle, and he applied his strength and effort to his practice, because he didn't want to get his butt kicked by ghosts. So they call him pressured by ghosts, enlightened because he was pressured by ghosts.
I think his name originally, I think, does actually translate into friendly with ghosts. I think when I've read the story before, okay. I think his name actually was translated as friendly with ghosts.
Friendly with ghosts.
So the moral of the story is ghosts are idiots, right?
Moral of the story is, well, ghosts have the 5 eyes, but they don't have the Buddha eye. I mean, they have eyes to see, and they can see your thoughts. They can see everything. They can know everything in your thoughts, but they don't have the Buddha eye. So be careful what you do, and when you cultivate, really apply vigor and really apply yourself in your meditation and whatnot. So sitting lotus in full lotus has great benefits to it. One, it eradicates negative karma because it puts a lot of pressure on your legs. It puts a lot of pain in your body. And the more you can endure that pain, the more you can use that as a way to investigate what attachments do you have to your comfort, you know? And when you do find the attachments, why do you feel that those attachments are important to you? Eventually the pain goes away. We'll come up with false thinking, though. The false thinking would be, I have pain in my leg. That means I'm causing a problem in my body, and I'm going to have muscle tears. I'm going to have bone problems. I'm going to not be able to walk right. Oh my God, what's going to happen to me? You know, we start thinking like this. And that's our false thinking. Because if that were to be true, then everyone and anyone who sat in full lotus would have full-out problems with their legs.
So
And
if some...
though,
Oh, sorry, carry on.
I was going to say, did you call me Carrie? I'm kidding. But though that position does put a stress on the bones, it does put a stress on the tendons. So it's very important to stretch and take care of your body so you can sit and cultivate properly.
Yeah, and these things, some of these practices can actually physiologically change your body too, right?
Yes, they do. They do. When I was here goes the story without your asking. One of the many times, because I catch colds too, and fevers and stuff, as we all do. I decided to sit in meditation when I had a very high fever, which brought my fever even higher.
You're a real sucker for punishment, aren't you?
Yeah, basically. I mean, so I was sitting there, my head feeling a little dizzy and runny nose, everything coming out all over the place, and just sitting there going, let me do some practice. And I'm sitting there, and within like 4 minutes of just trying to breathe through my nose, which didn't work, so I was just breathing through my mouth. It sounded terrible. All of a sudden, my nose cleared up. Then I was able to close my mouth finally. And then the little bit of air passage I had in my nose started to become bigger. And you felt the big release happen in the nasal passage, in the nasal cavities, and all of a sudden I can breathe out of one nostril. Then another 15 minutes later, I breathe throughout the other nostril. So now I have a full, clear passageway for breathing. Then the heaviness and the heat started building up more in my head, in my body, and all of a sudden it just kind of slowly dissipated. Suddenly it hit this big point and then dissipated. And you felt this cool feeling pressed down into the body, and the fever was gone. And the dizziness was gone. So within 25 minutes or so, the headache, the pressure, and the fever, and the clogged nasal passages were cleared within the aspects of having a very high fever, just by sitting in full lotus.
You can't tell people that. Do you know what this is going to do to the pharmacological industry? The pharmaceutical industry?
Can I not return to America now?
That's a multi-billion-dollar industry, like aspirin and Tylenol and cold medicine.
But I'm not saying that this is a cure-all for everyone. It's not a cure. It's simply that I'm going to protect myself by saying practicing meditation may do very good things for your body. Practicing sitting in full lotus or half lotus is okay too. And the side effects are stronger immune system, ability to fight off colds and fevers and all this stuff. It may not work for everyone. The reason why it may not work for everyone, because people have their own different types of levels of cultivation. So if you have a good cultivation where you can get into a nice state of concentration and put an ease to your false thinking, you may have better benefits than those who just sit there thinking, oh man, my legs are killing me. It works in accordance with your mind. So this is why the Buddhas always spoke on the right medicine for the mind. And when you have medicine Buddha, okay, and medicine Buddha turns around and says, I have the medicine for all living beings. He's not giving you a cure-all pill. He's giving you a method of practice to put an end to the false thinking in the mind, which clears away the leaves, branches, the tree, and the roots of what caused your suffering in the first place, whether it's a sickness, a disease, or if it's just your own mind causing craziness happening to you, and then all the quote-unquote external influences come around to throw your life into a big, roller coaster. So it's the method, and it's knowing the people, the living beings' minds that allow him to give you the right method to fix your mind, is what the Buddhists do. So meditation, just sitting in full lotus itself, not going into many crazy states or practices of meditation, just sitting in full lotus and just letting yourself sit and breathe and just concentrate on your breathing generally would bring a great amount of health benefits generally. So yes, you have a headache, you can try that. Eventually, if you can deal with the pain in your full lotus, if you already practice full lotus, be my guest, keep doing it. And try it out if you ever get sick. Hope you never get sick. Hope you don't get sick. But if you do, get a little headache, try sitting in meditation for about a half hour in full lotus. You have a stuffy nose, perhaps it may relieve a lot of problems. Look, yoga, qigong, meditation, tai chi, all these things, and even just basic physical exercise can help strengthen your immune system and put an end to a lot of colds and sicknesses in the body. Medicine doesn't have to always be the answer, and sometimes it's not the answer. And really, in truth, external medicines are not the answer, even if it's Chinese herbal medicine or if it's Ayurvedic medicine or any medicine. All fix in the mind. That is the medicine. But it's hard because people have too much to hold on to.
Yeah, people want the easy solution right there.
And it's hard, and it's there's people with a lot of physical ailments and diseases and a lot of problems, cancers and whatnot. And like, you want me to fix my mind? You want me to be happy and I'm dying? How am I supposed to do that? Well, there's nothing nice to say about it except it's happening already to you. So why you have to keep worrying about it happening? It's already happening. The disease is already present. So stop thinking the disease is already present. You don't have to think about it anymore. It's that way. When you think, you add more to it, which means you add more to your false thinking. So when we want to fix diseases, we want to fix any type of problem, it's not just so that we have to find the origin of the problem and then all of a sudden find the mind state in which it occurred. Yeah, that's all good too. That's what we have to do too. Generally, we must do that too. But we also got to adjust how we're going to see this problem. Because if, my head hurts and I have a slip disc in my head, a deviated a vertebrae or whatever, and I can't turn my head to the right or to the left. Man, I can't turn my head to the right or the left. And you keep constantly thinking about that, and you're not turning your head to the right or to the left because you're afraid that when you do, you're going to feel pain. So you just stay in one position. And because you're constantly thinking that your right and left turns are going to cause pain, even that they do. But what can we do to relieve that pain? Don't do anything the doctor says. Do not move. Don't turn your head. That sucks. There's so many ways. Because the muscles freeze or they get used to that specific position. So actually, the more pain you feel from starting to turn your head left and right is from the muscles just being in one position for such a long period of time that now they have to exercise turning back and forth again. So that's more pain. There are so many ways to lengthen the spine. There's so many ways to roll the spine. There's so many ways to stretch the muscles in the body that can relieve a lot of physical problems with the spine, let alone your muscles and joints, your bones and joints. So just sitting in meditation itself, sitting in lotus posture, can free up a lot of pain after the initial pain is gone in the hips area, in the lower back, in the knees, and the legs itself. Once the hip area, the sacrum area, the muscles there can stretch, it frees up the rest of the spine little by little, all leading up to C1, all leading up to the top to the very beginning of the top of your spine where your neck is. It can free up the muscles that run along the spine, the sides of the spine.
So somebody wanted to get into the full lotus, just say they hadn't stretched in a while, like what would you recommend? techniques or methods or?
Wow, I don't know if I can describe this clearly. Let me take a picture and then forward it to the. I'm kidding. um, Basically, I would say you would want to find a way to stretch your the legs, the muscles of the inner thighs of your legs. Okay, you want a way to stretch those out. You also want to find a position that helps stretch the outside of your legs as well. Remember, you want to stretch the quads, and you want to stretch out the groin, and you have to stretch the more deeper muscles. So you have to find the muscles for the lower you have to find the exercises for the muscles of the lower extremities. Okay, in reference to stretching them, and do those. Also, you have to stretch up the back too. So I would say you would want, before you do any type of lotus sitting, for beginners in general, take about 10 to 15 minutes of stretching first. Let yourself get warmed up. Stretch lightly until you can reach a good position for the stretching. And then try to get into the full lotus. If it doesn't work, it's okay. You may not get into it the first time. You just gotta stretch more. The first day you stretch 3-4 times throughout the day in 15 minutes. 15 minutes in the morning, in the afternoon, late afternoon, and in the evening. You stretch for as long as it takes you to stretch until you can get into full lotus. But try to get into full lotus generally. It's really important.
All right. On that note, do you want to call it a wrap?
Yeah, that sounds good. I mean, it's very general. Remember, you have meridians running through the legs on the in and the outs. And when you sit in full lotus, you stretch open the hip area, which frees up the genital area, and the meridians running through the genital area can help free up that flow of energy as well. So when they're stretched open, it does a very good thing for you. And then for the lower back and for the outsides of the legs, when you have the other meridians running through those areas as well, it helps to free up the passage of energy there too. And it's very good for your muscles. And like I said, stretch before and after full lotus. You also want to do a light stretching. Just give it a sec for your muscles to get used to the sitting, putting your legs straight again. You may get numb. That's okay. And then after, just do a little rubbing over your knees, the sides of your knees, the back of your knees, and just do a little light stretching again, because you want to free up whatever tension you had in there as well. And that can help maintain your joints and muscles and tendons.
All right, very good. Well, thanks for joining us again, Lynn, as always.
Thank you.
Thank you to the listeners for listening to Expedient Means with Lynn Away on Tomahawk Radio.
Yeah, actually, I'm working on a little project. Sorry to interrupt. I'm not sorry to interrupt. I'm kidding. I wanted to mention this before, but I guess this is on this show. I'm working on something called the Expedient Means Journal. It's a little newsletter. It's going to take some time to put it together because I have a lot of projects going on in my life. So eventually when I get to it, I'll let all the listeners know. And it'll just entail stuff that we've already talked about, just a little bit more detail too. Basically things on cultivation, health, wellness, methods of practice itself, things like that. I'm going to introduce into this journal, and it should be pretty interesting. And once it's done, I'll start letting people know it. It should come out like every 2 months or every month.
And it can all be yours for 3 easy payments in $19.95. Act now.
Yeah. It's cool.
Just kidding.
Fun.
All right. Well, I'm going to end on a little quote here, and I guarantee you won't be able to guess this, but perseverance is the hard work you do after you get tired of doing the hard work you already did. And that's by
oh my God. Oh, wait. No. Don't say it. I know. This was in Big Trouble Little China and the Fortune Cookie that Bruce Leroy found, wasn't it?
Well, you got two movies mixed into one. Bruce Leroy was in a different movie, but anyway, no, it's from I don't know if he's still the House Speaker. I don't think he is, but Newt Gingrich.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I'm always beating on the politicians, so when they say something interesting, I guess we can give the devil his due. Anyhow,
nice. Okay.
Thanks, Lynn.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.